Hello everyone, my name is Snackbar and welcome back to another video. I hope you guys are doing well. Today we're going to continue with our to-do app and we're going to build a Material UI Snackbar, which is basically a notification pop-up that pops up whenever we submitted a message or tell it to open up. So that's going to be pretty easy, but we're also going to add levels to it. So if it's an error message, we want the message box to be red. If it's successful, we want it to be green. If nothing particular is about the level, we just want to make it white or whatever. Something along those lines. So let's first introduce a new component, which is going to be the app snackbar. Okay, that's a new component that we're going to create right now. So right click on components, new file, and it's going to be app snackbar.js. Okay, so this is going to have a couple of things. Okay, so first we need a snackbar, of course, which requires an open attribute, which is a boolean, and we're going to base that off of the context in just a minute. And we need snackbar content, okay, which is just going to cut off like so. Now let's introduce our context here before I forget that. So context equals use context to do context, so I don't forget that. And we're going to go to our context next, and what we're going to do is we're going to add a new object here to the state, which is going to be the message object, and it's just going to be an empty object for now. And there we go. And we're going to test this on the create to do, but before I forget this, we're going to go to our render here of the provider, and we're going to add this. So I'm going to add a new function here, which is going to be set message, and it's basically going to be an arrow function. It's a small enough function that I don't have to clutter up the rest of the screen here with all these other like small functions here. You know what, I'm just going to fold this in. That's going to make it a lot easier to read this. So we have our create to do app, or read to do app, or update to do function. Sorry, app, I say app, I mean function. Delete to do function, and then the random method inside here. So I'm gonna just add an arrow function right here instead of putting an extra function right here. It will just make it a lot cleaner. Plus it's a small function, so I can. So I'm just gonna make it an arrow function, which is gonna do this. Let's set state, and we're gonna say message, which is going to be the message, which is what we're going to get in here as a parameter. Okay, so that's basically it. So that's a new function that we just created. Okay, so with that being said, let's go to the top here to our create to do method, okay? Because what I want to do is, and pun is totally intended here, I want to change this create to do to deal with error messages. So what I'm first going to do is surround this entire thing. So the entire let data, data push, and set state, we're going to put that inside of an if statement, and we're going to check if the response.data.message.level, okay, if that compares to a string of success, okay, and if it does, okay, so let's see if it's success. I'm having a typo here. Oops, too many C's, not enough S's. There we go. And we're gonna only do it if it's successful. If not, we're not gonna do it at all. We're not gonna submit anything to the front end database or whatever. And let's set the message here as well. So response.data.message, set that as the message. I'm gonna add the typo to my direct dictionary so we don't get those squiggly lines under it, so it won't confuse you. And so yeah, if it's successful, then we're gonna copy the data, push the data, submit the data, okay? And else, so else, that's important, we just want to set the state, and we just want to set the message as the response.data.message, okay? So if it's successful, we submit the entire data, otherwise we just set the message, okay? Pretty simple. Now let's go to our controller now, I guess. No, let's continue with the snackbar. So what we're going to set here as a simple boolean is we're going to check if the thing that we're looking for is undefined or not. We need a boolean to be in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to context.message, okay, so context.message, and we want to look at its text, whether or not it does not equal to undefined, okay? So if it's not undefined and it exists, we want it to render. Otherwise, don't do it, okay? So there we go. Next up, let's go to our content here, which is a message, which is gonna be, you guessed it, context.message, but there is going to be a little bit something different to this. There is a problem that we have. Well, actually, I'll show you in just a minute. Okay, I'll show you in just a minute. We'll leave this as is. And that snackbar can also have an auto hide duration on here, which I'm going to set to 6,000, which means 6 seconds or 6,000 milliseconds. Okay. Now, next up, we can add something else to the content here. We can add action, okay? And the action takes an array of actions, basically, which is going to be, in this case, buttons, okay? So we're going to put in a button here. And because we're working with an array, and I'm going to import the button right here, because we're working with an array, every single item needs a key, okay? So the key for this one is simply going to be dismiss. And we're just going to say dismiss as our text right here, okay? So that is a button that's added as an action on our snack bar, right? Then now we're going to go to our controller, okay? So controller, to-do controller. And we're going to look at our create function right here. So first of all, this return, I'm not going to put inside the try, but I'm going to put at the bottom here. That's just a little cleaner and better. And what we're going to do now is we're going to also return a message whenever something, when it goes right, okay? So when it goes right, we want to return a message. And that message is going to hold text and it's going to hold a level, okay? So in this case, we're going to need to use another array. In this case, which, like, an array in PHP gets returned as an object as JSON, basically using this JSON function right here. We return arrays as objects, which is pretty cool. So we can just say text in here, and we can say to do has been created. Okay, something along those lines. And then we also need to put in a level. So we're going to put in level like so. And that's going to be, let's see, that's going to be, in this case, success. Okay, so it succeeds, so the level is success. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this. That's actually pretty much it. So let's create a new to-do, shall we? So hold on a minute, we're getting an error here. And the app snackbar, oh yeah, of course, I didn't define it. Let's go to our app.js, import it, don't forget to do that. And let's try again. There we go. So let's add a new to-do. So new to-do, okay? We're gonna add this and we get errors. Okay, what's the error this time? Let's see, invalid prop message supplied. Okay, so let's see. Right, I forgot about this. The message is not context.message, it's context.message.text, duh. Because it's an object otherwise. We need it to be a string, so there we go. So let's try that again. Okay. So I did add it, but let's try this again. So new to-do 2, okay. Add that to the list. There we go. To-do is being created and we get this little button dismiss, which is dark, which is not what we want, but we can just change that real quick. So we can see the text right here. Now, that's all nice and fine, but there is a slight issue that I have, and that is, like, sometimes you have so much, like, information to display, you want to use multiple lines. You want to use a multi-line section, basically. So I want to say to-do has been created, and then I want to, like, put the actual task underneath it to show what exactly has been created. Now, for that reason, we're going to swap over the text to an array instead of a string, which is going to be pretty easy to do. But first, before I forget this as well, we're going to add an on-click to the button right here of the message, which is basically just going to close this by doing the following. An arrow function, which is going to do context.setMessage. And then we're going to just put it as an empty object, okay? So we just reset it, basically, okay? So, with that done, let's see. So now if we run the website again, we create a new to-do, and this time it was empty. But now if I click the dismiss button, it will dismiss the message, okay? We're going to talk about this in another episode, the fact that I can now just add a new thing without any problems. There is an easy way to do it, and then there is the supposed way to do it. We're going to talk about Symfony forms in another episode. But for now, let's just create a new to-do 3 in this case. Okay, create that. And now we can see like this, and we have the button which we can click. Now the text is dark, which is not nice, and we get an extra error here. Prop type to do is invalid. It must be a function, usually from prop types back. Okay, hold on. So delete dialog. Okay, the delete dialog. To do is invalid. Oh, right. Okay, so this has something to do with the fact that the to do does not exist anymore, which is a bug, which we're gonna solve probably in a small episode just after this. So let's see. Context.setMessage. We clear that out. Okay, fine. And the controller, we set this. So what I want to do is I want to set multiple lines. The reason being is that I want to be able to like say something but then have a new line under it, basically. So we're gonna turn this string into an array, and we're gonna just add stuff to this array, which is this string, and we're gonna put in an extra thing here, which is gonna be the content name. Okay, so, and actually I'm gonna put in another little thing here, and my keyboard layout changed. There we go. So task double dot, okay, space, and then dot concatenate the content arrow name. Okay, so now what we can do, because this is it has turned into an array of messages, we can now do something pretty cool ish, and that is to say context.message.text.map, and then for each set of text is going to be text, which is going to be an arrow function with parentheses, and inside here we can render the text, but we're going to render a fragment first, and the reason being, and we need to give this a key, I guess. So key, which is in this case is going to be the text, or actually no, we have one thing only, so I'm actually going to put another set of parentheses around the text, comma index. Okay, add a key, and I could just put the text, but for safety's sake I'm going to put index plus, and then a space, and then another plus, and then the text. Okay, so I give the index and then the text. So just a little safe thing right here. And then what we're going to do is inside here we can actually put the thing that we want to put in here, which is going to be the text. So this refers to this, which is the text. Okay, and then every single time we do that, we want to add a line break. Okay, so now we have multiple messages right here. Let's see, we have a problem here. Cannot read property of map. That's because it does not exist yet. The content does not exist yet. So in order to fix that, we need to do the following. What we're basically going to do is we're going to check here if context.message.text exists. And if it does, then we run this Snackbar content. Then we are allowed to render this. Otherwise, don't render it, because we're going to have problems then. So it's going to render the Snackbar content box right here. Now, only if it actually has one to show. So if text exists, you could also say like does not compare to undefined, just like the previous thing that we did. But in this case, I just want to render this in case it exists. Otherwise, don't even think about rendering it. Okay. So there we go. Let's refresh, and now we should have multiple messages. So new to do 4. Okay. And we can see new to do has been created, task new to do 4. There we go. And that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted it to show that the thing that it created. So if I was doing multi-line things, like a new thing has been created, it has these values, or something has been updated, it used to have these values, now they are these values, I can now do multi-line, which makes things a little bit more complicated, but it is a lot more user-friendly to actually see the thing that you just created, see what data you gave it, or if you updated something, see what it updated to. So that's just pretty cool. Okay, so that's a little thing that's for me. If you just want to keep it simple and just say add to do, or to do has been added, and don't want to mention anything about what you just did, then, you know, sure, that's fine. But in case of me, I do want to render multiple messages in case something is necessary for this. So I do an array instead, and I just render this, okay? So that makes me a little bit different from other people, I know, but it's cooler. Now let's add another little thing here. So if something goes wrong, for example, I mistype something here, I'm gonna return a message only, okay? Which is going to be, So I'm just gonna, you know what, I'm just gonna copy paste this. So I'm just gonna copy this and paste it over. And let's see the text that we're gonna have here. So the second piece of text is no longer necessary. And we just have one set of text, and we can say here, let's say, well, we're trying to persist it. If it cannot persist, we would really just say, could not submit to do to the database, okay? Because it did reach the server, it just didn't reach the database, okay? So that is another thing, and the level is going to be error, okay? Error. So there we go. Now let's try another one. New to do 5. Add that to the list. Could not submit to do to the database, okay? Pretty simple, pretty cool. And again, that button is bothering me. It's black. We don't want that. We want that button to show a different color, which in this case for button, what we could just use is a very simple thing actually. So we can add a color prop to this, which we can just put to inherit, which is going to inherit the colors from the previous iterations. In this case, that should be white. So new to do 5, create that. Of course, we couldn't do it, but in this case, we now have dismiss in white, which is great. Now, the final thing that I want to do is make sure that the colors of this content is going to be different. So let's go to our Snackbar content here and add style to it. And we're going to go and put an object in there. It takes an object. So we put JavaScript colons or a JavaScript brackets, then object brackets, and we're going to change the background color double dot. And then I want to put in a function, okay? I'm gonna put in a function which is gonna be check level, okay? Check level. That's a function that I want to put in here. That's gonna run, and it's gonna submit the context dot message dot level, okay? So we get access to that level, so we know what it is, okay? Now this function does not exist yet, so we're going to create the function check level, okay? So we're gonna create that function. Let's see, I want to create it globally or inside this function. We're gonna create it globally, okay? And what we will do here is we will return something based on something. So I'm gonna create a switch here, and based on the level, okay, in case it is gonna be success, okay? So in case it's success, we're gonna return green, for example, okay? And then we're gonna have another case, in which case it is going to be error, then return red. Okay, pretty simple. And of course you also need to add a default, which is just going to have a break on it, or actually we're just going to return white. Okay, so if there is no level whatsoever given, it would just default to white. Okay, so there we go. Now that should work. So what it will do is it will check the level and it will submit either green, red, or white depending on the level. So let's check this out, okay? So let's add a new to do. And this case, yeah, it's gonna be an error. So new to do 5, and it should be red. There we go, it's red. Could not submit to do to database, dismiss. And you could also just make the text black if you, or red if you want to. So you could, for example, give the message here, the span, give that a style and make that the specific color of the thing that you want to change, and just leave the snack bar color as is. Or if you want to set that custom, you can do that too. If you want to set the background color to anything else, for example, let's set that to yellow for God knows why, then you can have that as well. So new to do 5. Now it is yellow. Can't read a thing right now, but that's also something you could do. But this switch is easy because now you just need to add extra colors based on whatever else there is. So if there is success, if there is error, if there is warning, make it orange or whatever. And all you would need to do is return it in PHP, say the level is warning or whatever, and that's what you're gonna get, okay? So that's been it for now. That's the pretty simple-ish way to do it. The messages I've done really complicated now. You don't need an array like this You do not need it. I just did it because I usually use multi-lines of things inside my notifications. Normally you would not do this, but I do because I'm stubborn and I want to make sure that I am able to use these things. So in this case, new to do 5. I want to make sure that I can do stuff like this. I want to make sure that I can put in new lines. And you would think, why not just do it in PHP or in JSON? It's because JSON is meant for data transfer only. It has no markup whatsoever. I cannot introduce new lines. I cannot add, for example, bold text or whatever, and I still can't right now. But now, at least, I can do multi-line, which is a little bit better by just putting the text inside of an array. So, pretty simple-ish. You just have to remember that each text needs to be an array. Now you could do this differently. You could make the message an object in itself and add to that if you want to. But you know, this is actually pretty simple and easy to read. So we just put a message, it has a text, which has an array, which has an array of texts, and then we give the level, which is error or success. So this has been a long video, but I want to thank you guys for watching and enjoying, and hopefully you learned a lot. If you have any further questions, let me know in the comments down below. There is another solution to this particular problem, but it's a little bit more dangerous because you're going to be a threat to cross-site scripting, which is not cool, which is not nice. So if you don't want to be vulnerable to that, use this and deal with the fact that you can't add any markup. Otherwise, well, there is not that much of an option, really. Otherwise, stick to this, and you will at least have new lines. You won't have access to markup, like I said, but you will have new lines. So, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.